Clear conscience. That's what Cristiano Ronaldo said after Portugal were eliminated from the World Cup by a Spanish goal in the final seconds of extra time. He was 41 years old. He wiped tears from his eyes, applauded the fans, and walked off the pitch. Not "we deserved better," not "the referee cost us," not "I gave everything and it wasn't enough." Clear conscience. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who died almost 2,000 years ago, would have understood those two words immediately. He spent his entire life writing about exactly this. 6 World Cups played, 6 tournaments where he scored. The only player in history to do that. And he left without the one trophy that was always missing. Without the thing the world spent 20 years telling him he needed to be complete. His verdict on all of it was 2 words. So the question is, did Ronaldo even know he was living out a philosophy written in ancient Rome? Ronaldo's relationship with the World Cup is unlike anything else in football history. It started in 2006, when a 21-year-old from Madeira helped Portugal reach the semifinals, their best result in 40 years. They lost to France. He cried that night, but those were different tears. The tears of someone who had just discovered the distance between where he was and where he wanted to be. In 2010, Portugal lost to Spain. In 2014, eliminated in the group stage despite Ronaldo playing through a knee injury that would have ended most players' tournaments before they started. In 2018, and this is where things get almost mythological, he scored a hat trick against Spain in a single match. The last goal, a free kick in the final minutes that felt, just for a moment, like destiny finally arriving. Portugal lost to Uruguay in the next round. In 2022, he arrived in Qatar as the greatest scorer in international football history and was controversially dropped to the bench. He trained, he waited, he scored when called upon. Portugal were eliminated in the quarterfinals. And then 2026, at 41, one more time. 3 goals, including his first ever in a knockout match. A stoppage time goal by Spain. The end. 6 World Cups, 6 tournaments where he scored in every single one. 2 decades at the highest level. And the trophy never came. The world called it a tragedy. Marcus Aurelius would have called it something completely different. Marcus Aurelius was born in 121 AD in Rome. By 40, he was co-emperor. By 61, sole ruler of the most powerful institution in the known world. And in the private moments between battles, between plagues, between the endless pressure of governing an empire that was slowly beginning to fracture, he wrote, not for publication, not for history, for himself. A private journal he called Taes Hilton, which means to himself. We know it today as the Meditations. It was never meant to be read by anyone else. Marcus Aurelius was a Stoic, a follower of a Greek philosophical tradition that believed the path to a good life was not through pleasure, not through achievement, not through recognition, but through virtue, through the disciplined practice of what is genuinely within your control. The Stoics made a distinction that sounds simple, but changes everything once you really understand it. They divided all things into 2 categories: what is up to us and what is not up to us. What is up to us? Our choices, our effort, our attention, our values, how we respond to what happens around us. What is not up to us? Everything else. The weather, other people's decisions, whether a ball crosses a line or not in the final seconds of extra time. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wrote it for himself in a private journal 2,000 years ago. He had no idea that one day a footballer from Madeira would spend 6 World Cups living out that exact idea and summarize it in 2 words on a pitch in 2026. Go back through every World Cup Ronaldo played and ask the same question each time. What was within his control? In 2006, he scored, he created, he led. Portugal lost to a better France on that day. Not up to him. In 2010, he was isolated, the team struggled to create anything, Spain were the best side in world football. Not up to him. In 2014, he played through that injury. He showed up. What happened after he showed up was not up to him. In 2018, that hat trick, 3 goals, the free kick in the final minute, one of the greatest individual performances a World Cup had ever seen. Portugal lost to Uruguay in the next round. Not up to him. In 2022, benched. He could have demanded attention, caused conflict, made the whole tournament about his ego. He didn't. He trained, he was ready, he scored when called. What the manager decided? Not up to him. In 2026, at 41, 3 goals, his first ever in a knockout match, he gave everything that was left. Spain scored in stoppage time. Not up to him. The Stoics had a name for the things we can't control. They called them preferred indifference, things that are, in themselves, neither good nor bad, but that most people mistakenly treat as the measure of a life. A World Cup trophy is, in Stoic terms, a preferred indifferent, worth pursuing, nice to have, but not, and this is the radical part, not the measure of whether you lived well. The measure of whether you lived well is whether you exercised virtue in everything that was within your control. And Ronaldo did. For 20 years, across 6 World Cups, at 21 and at 41, what was within his control, he did. What was not, was not. And so when he stood on that pitch in 2026 and said, clear conscience, he wasn't performing humility. He was stating, with complete accuracy, the Stoic verdict on his own career. Marcus Aurelius would have nodded, because clear conscience is not a consolation. In Stoic philosophy, it is the only victory that was ever truly available. The world's relationship with Ronaldo's World Cup career is a masterclass in exactly the confusion Marcus Aurelius spent his whole life trying to correct. For 20 years, the narrative was simple. Ronaldo is one of the greatest individuals of his generation, but he hasn't won a World Cup. Something is missing. Without that trophy, the career has a hole. But that argument only works if you believe the measure of a life is its outcomes. If you believe what happens to us matters more than what we do with what happens to us. Marcus Aurelius believed the opposite. He ruled an empire fighting wars on multiple fronts, suffering through devastating plagues, watching a slow decline he couldn't stop. What he could control was how he governed, how he thought, how he responded to adversity. And that, he said, was enough. Not because outcomes don't matter, but because a person who does everything within their power and still loses has not failed. Ronaldo scoring a hat trick against Spain in 2018 and losing to Uruguay in the next round is not a tragedy. Ronaldo standing on a pitch at 41 with a clear conscience is not a consolation prize. They are the same thing, seen from 2 different frameworks. The world's framework says trophies are the measure. Marcus Aurelius' framework says virtue is the measure. And virtue, effort, discipline, showing up, was the one thing Ronaldo never failed to bring. Marcus Aurelius wrote the Meditations for himself. He wrote them to remind himself, daily, of the only things truly within his control. Ronaldo played 6 World Cups with the same private logic.
Cristiano Ronaldo
Not just for
scored
the trophy,
twice.
but for the version of himself that could look back and say, I gave what was mine to give. I controlled what was mine to control. The trophy was never guaranteed. The effort always was. And so he stood on that pitch in 2026, at 41, in tears, having lost his last World Cup in the final seconds, and said 2 words that Marcus Aurelius wrote 2,000 years ago in a private journal, never meant for anyone else's eyes. Clear conscience. That's not a man who failed to win a World Cup. That's a man who understood, without ever reading a single page of Stoic philosophy, what Marcus Aurelius spent his entire life trying to say. If this is the kind of football you want to think about, there's more where this came from. Subscribe, and we'll keep going.